Hi popular people, Sean here with another Pop to It recipe. There are just 9 ingredients that I'll explain along the way, but first you'll need some cilantro and onions, and I actually like to take my cilantro fresh and then I'll freeze it and take it out as I need it. And the onions, you're going to have some small dices and some big chunks at the end. Now you're going to take a pot and put it on the oven on a medium to high heat and pour in a can of 100% Naturals Hunt's diced tomatoes. And it's just 1 can of just the regular plain diced tomatoes. Next you're going to add the 100% Natural Hunt's diced tomatoes, but this can is the basil, garlic, and oregano. And I found both of these at my local grocery store, which is the Kroger store. So yeah, just any store, Kroger, Publix, Walmart, wherever you can find groceries. Now this is just the store-bought Kroger brand of regular spaghetti sauce, regular like tomato sauce. There's nothing added into it, and I did about 1/4 of the jar and added that into the mix. And now I'm just taking a spoon and I'm stirring it up. Again, the pot I had already turned on to a medium to high heat, and I'm just mixing all these ingredients so that it's even. All the chunks of tomatoes are spread out all throughout the pot, and that tomato sauce that I added in is evenly distributed throughout the mix. Next I have taken the Mrs. Dash Original Blend and I'm adding a generous amount into the mixture. And from there I am going to take some salt, and this is sea salt that came in a grinder and I'm grinding it in. Again, it's just a generous amount so that all that tomato sauce has some flavoring to it. Now the next step is to add in some freshly ground black pepper, and then I'm going to take a spoon and stir all of this together to blend all of the dry ingredients into this mix. And again, the pot has already been on to a medium to high heat, so it's already starting to bubble. And at this point I'm adding in just a small amount of small diced onions into the mix, and I'm gonna stir all of this around, get all the tomatoes, the sauce, the onions all even into the pot. And after I've gotten it stirred really nicely, I am then going to add a lid to the pot, and what this is going to do is infuse the flavor into the tomatoes, and it's going to make the salsa really good. So after about 15 minutes I am going to then take the lid off and add the next dry ingredient to the mix. And what I have chosen to use, and you can go to a farmer's market and get whatever you like, but I just went to a grocery store and got a bottle of just the dried chili flakes, and I'm adding a generous amount into this because it's going to give it that little kick. So the chili flavor with the onions along with the oregano at the end, it's going to make this really, really good. And I'm stirring this around, and as you can see, that watery consistent that it did have before, it's starting to kind of go away and it's becoming more salsa-like. It kind of looks like spaghetti sauce right now, but after a while of being on the stove, all of that water and liquid is going to evaporate, and then you're going to have more of a salsa. Next I have added the lid back to the pot, but this time I have actually turned the stove down to a low to medium heat, and I've come back 3 more times at 15-minute intervals and stirred the mixture and then replaced the lid back. But this last time, on the 4th time, what I did was I actually took the lid and vented it so that the moisture could actually evaporate out, so that the consistency would be much more salsa-like and a little more dry and not as wet. So now you can see what it's looking like. And so at this point I have turned the stove off. It's still bubbling, and I have it still on the same exact eye, but I have turned the stove on the off position, and I'm adding chunks of onion so that it'll be more of a crunchy effect once this is all complete. So I'm just stirring that around just to give it an even consistency. And the next step is to actually take some of that cilantro and add that to the mix, and that's going to give you more of the salsa that you taste at Moe's, which is my favorite salsa, and it was my inspiration to even do this. And so now I am just mixing all that together, and it was still a little wet. So what I decided to do was to get a strainer just to get some more of that juice out, so that way I would have more of a dry salsa. So again, it's still gonna be very wet, but it's gonna have a drier consistency so that your chips don't get as soggy. So as you can see at the bottom, a lot of that juice that we don't really need for this salsa is draining out. So once I have gotten everything out of the pot and it's in a strainer, I'm just taking my spoon and I'm gonna go back and forth so that I can drain as much of it out as I can. So I'm kind of just, just taking the spoon and moving it around. And once it visually gets to the way that I like for a salsa to look, then I'll stop. And at this point also, if you wanted to add in some chunks of tomato, that would be great. I just didn't have any to dice up at the time. I forgot to get one. And now I have transferred the salsa into a serving dish, and this is what it looks like when it's complete. And as always, please like, comment, and subscribe. Bye!